Okay, so hi everyone. So today we're talking results day, what's next? And my name is Aya Kutula. And obviously, I don't need to remind everyone, results day is coming soon. A level results day is on Thursday. I had to check that beforehand because, but yeah, A level results day is on Thursday. And yeah, today we're talking about all the different options. So by God's grace, results is going to be brilliant for most people, but God works in different ways, and there'll be different paths that different people may take. It may not turn out exactly how you expect. So that's what we're having this conversation today. So before we go on, I'll just let everyone here introduce themselves. So if everyone, starting from Precious and Alexandra to Desiree and then Ibukun, I've already said your names now. If you could introduce yourself and say who you are, what you do, and yeah, just quickly introduce yourself, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Precious. First of all, thank you for having me today. I'm 18 years old and I'm about to do an apprenticeship in a fintech role for an investment and asset management company. And that's me.
Wow, amazing. Hello everyone. I'm Alessandra. I'm a teacher. I teach psychology A level. That's my main subject. I've been teaching for 5 years, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
I guess it's my turn.
Yeah.
Um, Hi, my name's Desiree, and I'm currently going to my third year at uni. I study economics, and I originally entered uni through clearing. So yeah,
My name's Ibaka and I study medicine. And yeah, so I first of all studied biomedical science before transferring into medicine. So I did a conversion course.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that's everyone. So I'll start with Alessandra. So Alessandra, as our resident teacher in the house, and you've seen many students go through A levels. So what, from your knowledge, what are the different routes for those that don't normally get there get into their choice universities? What options do you know of for these students?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think a lot of people lose hope and think that there's no options, but there's a lot of options for people. First of all, obviously, you can apply for the same course that you wanted to do. So, say you wanted to do law, you can apply for the same course but at a different university. And what you need to do is find out whether other universities have available spaces, whether it's with the grades that you got or lower grades, regardless of what that may be. So, applying for the same course through clearing at a different university. Another option would be applying for a different course through clearing. And what I mean by that is obviously, I think that's why it's important to know your options because if you don't get into that specific course, sometimes the universities might offer you something else. So I think it's good to kind of look at, would I be willing to do any other subjects or courses if that was an opportunity, if that came up. And that happens to lots of people. I mean, I had my cousin, she wanted to do medicine, but she ended up doing paramedic science. And then she actually switched to nursing and she graduated this year and it worked out really well for her. Or if the case happens that you really know that this is the course you want to do, maybe you didn't get in that year, taking a gap year. We've had students who have taken gap years and have actually retaken those just the subjects where they didn't do as well as they wanted to, and it's also worked out for those students. So I think a lot of people don't consider that often as an option because of disappointing family and all that stuff, but I actually think that's a really good option that can work for a lot of people. If you're really sure that that's what you want to do, I think that's a good option. So those are kind of like the most common, I think, that I've kind of come across.
Yeah. So you mentioned two options that are actually what Ibukun and Desiree are going to explain a bit more to us. So that was clearing and then doing a separate course. That'll help you get into the course you desire. And don't worry, Precious, will come to you in a bit as well. And then you also mentioned gap year. And I think, like you said, that is something that many people shouldn't look down on as well. It's a very good option. But yeah, so if we can let's go back in time. So if we can, Desiree, let's go back in time because you guys are now studying. Your results day was years ago. So please narrate how results day was for you. Like what thoughts were going through your mind prior to results day. Just quickly, I know you probably had a lot of thoughts, but just describe like what it was like and what it was like when you first saw your grades and kind of thoughts that rushed through your mind. So I'll start with Ibukun.
So For A levels with me, I didn't. I did a tech. With B tech, you kind of already know what you're like. Yeah, over the years, results like afterwards. So I kind of knew what my results were going to be. Um, but I'm going to quickly talk in particular with GCSE. That's what kind of made me go into it. With GCSE, I was quite nervous, worried. But after getting them, I wasn't too happy with what I got, which made me to do a B tech. So that was me in terms of result.
Okay. Yeah, so it's breaking up a bit, but from what I got, so you did BTEC not A level, and then but you remember how in GCSEs you weren't too happy with your results, and then you then went on to do BTEC.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then Desiree, what about you? What was A level results day like for you when you saw your results?
I did JIB, so my results, I was gonna have to get them
IB?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So with mine, we had a time when everyone had to go on. So I believe that's about 4:00 or 4:30. So it was advised you go on half an hour later because everyone coming on crash the site. So I took the opportunity to take a bit extra. I was like, you know what, it's not going to change. I don't have to die right now. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, took a minute. And I was pleased, yes, my friend logged up for me and we had a little code. And the code she gave me wasn't the code I wanted to receive. So devastated then, but worked our way around it.
Okay, that's cool. So Desiree, so you eventually went into clearing because you didn't get the expected. So please, for those who don't know, please explain what clearing is and how it works. So I think Alexandra already touched on it, but from your perspective, what is clearing and how does it work?
Okay, clearing works in 2 ways. Some people like to say the second way of clearing is adjustment, but realistically, it's just clearing. So clearing is if you haven't got what you were predicted to get, what you were planning to get, and you can't get into university, you can find universities that will accept you what you currently have. Or if you've achieved better than you're supposed to get, you can then call up better universities that will accept you to better grades. In my case, I had lower than I wanted to get. So I had to call up a different university to do that. But normally you can go through UCAS, but because UCAS is going to be dealing with so many students on that day, it's advisable that you do your work on your own and then go to them with answers. So what I did was obviously shed my tears, all of that's gone now. I made a list. So I went on if uni league tables, what uni. I just also randomly googled up usual unis that people that normally don't want to go to the more academic unis will go to anyway, and I looked them up. So what were they accepting for my results? Accepting for my course, that was economics, as well as their phone numbers for their obviously by the time I got my results on that day, it was already too late to call up any places. So I spent that evening just writing it up. I had about 14 universities written down. Also I did not restrict myself to just the UK or just England. So I had Wales and Scotland, just in case, I didn't like anything that was here. And then the next day, as early as 9:00, I was calling them. Some place to tell you, oh, I'm sorry, we're full. Or some place to tell you, oh, they have a look for you. And they'd be like, oh, actually, we are accepting, but based on this particular subject, we can't take you, or we can take you and this, that. And you just keep making the phone calls, striking this off, striking that off, striking this off, striking that off. And you reduce your fee. And then you can then call up UCAS, because then you kind of have to reply again. But you replied now with the certainty that you're getting in, because the university have told you, okay, would accept you. They call up you and say, okay, I'm applying to, so in my case, University of Leicester and York University. But then after comparing both based on accommodations and the whereabouts of the union, I was like, I prefer Leicester. So I finally went with Leicester, and yeah.
So it's a lot of independent work, like you having to sort it out yourself, and then eventually get in contact with a lot of people. So so that's clearing. Okay, Precious. So you've already explained that you're doing an apprenticeship and you want to get into fintech, which sounds really good. So just give us a bit more context. So what impact, if any, let me already tell them. So your exam results are coming. So you're going to we'll speak this, you don't know yet, but you're going to see soon, right?
Yeah.
So what impact, if any, will exam results have on your apprenticeship, rather?
Luckily, I think my apprenticeship is pretty much cemented, because the way it works is that they have like a minimum grade that we all have to get, and then they see your predicted grades, and then they let you on the course based on how your predicted grades compare with the minimum grades. So luckily, I think my predicted grades are much higher than the minimum grades. So I'm hoping that my grades, my is dropped, so miss the minimum. But at this moment, they've pretty much finished my onboarding, so I doubt that they'll say that I can't work for them because of my grades. So I'm not too sure what effect my results will have, but I know that they are waiting for them to come out, and they are gonna take this into account somehow.
Okay. And so this is not many people do apprenticeship, or not that I know of actually. But although from what I know, it's actually another good route. So what made you decide to go for the apprenticeship route?
The thing that made me decide to go for this route, I think it was the Holy Spirit, because it was in year 11 where I was beginning to pray about what to do. And I just heard like a still small voice that I might not go to uni straight away. And so I had this thought in my head that perhaps I won't do the traditional route. And then later on, my mom kind of confirmed it and said, why don't we look to do a degree apprenticeship? That was my original plan, to do an apprenticeship and a degree. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get into that. I applied to a lot of roles, but they didn't. I was rejected, and then I ended up stumbling across the role I have now, and literally the Holy Spirit just orchestrated it in a way where I didn't have to work for it. I didn't have to strive. This role just literally came at my doorstep, and I was convinced that this is what God was calling me to do all along, because it came so stresslessly.
That's really good. I like that. But and also if people for some people that are actually going to receive their results this week, would it be, and then they would maybe don't get into their choice university, would it be possible for them to go down the apprenticeship route? Is it too late?
I think it's not too late. I've spoken to people who they're doing apprenticeships now, and when it was time for them to get their results, they didn't get the results that they wanted, and they decided to do an apprenticeship after, and they started in like December or like January. So I think if you're waiting for your results, don't rule out an apprenticeship, and don't even rule out a degree apprenticeship, because you can also always start next year. I think it's just about being open and researching and seeing what is out there, because there's actually so much that people don't know. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. So let's talk more about on the day now trying to handle the situation. So Alessandra, how does your school and other teachers how do you usually prepare students for unexpected results on results day?
Yeah, so before UCAS, they usually have like UCAS days where they get told about how to prepare for the day. But we have a exam officer that's designated to basically, she's the one that processes the UCAS application and all that stuff. So on results day, the exam officer is there. The sixth form, like the head of sixth form and other teachers are there. Usually teachers like myself would go as well, just to be there. And that helps, because then what we do is we can look at, what grades did they get? Is it just one grade below their subject and so on? So all that is in place. And what happens is we can help them to look at, well, if it's one grade below, maybe, try this university, and then they look at, the list of universities, the requirements, the clearing phone numbers, and, the school really helps them. And actually, I feel like in the last 2 to 3 years, and I teach in a really big sixth form, we haven't had any students that didn't get into a place, which is actually quite amazing. So with clearing and with, their offers and all that stuff, all the students actually have had, in the last 2 to 3 years, everyone got a place, regardless of the grades that they got, whether it was maybe through clearing or whether it was maybe one grade below their offer, every single person got a place. I think actually it just goes to show that there's so much opportunities available. So they will get told, maybe the universities may offer them a different course, like I said before, access it through clearing, or in some cases, unfortunately, there are cases when the students are so disappointed with their results that they want to appeal the process.
Yeah.
So if they feel that, you know, actually this is quite a shock. I've had students last year that wanted to appeal, and they wanted, you know, myself to sit down with them to look at the exam, especially if it's like the student has predicted an A and they get like a C. Obviously, even myself, I'm like, oh wow, like we need to know what happened. So I've had a couple of students last year and the year before where we've had to pull up the exams from the exam board, sit down and go through that with them. And then for some of them, we've said, because we've had students where it's like they actually could get a different place, but they just really, you know, have this idea in mind of where they want to go and they just don't want to give it up. So that happens as well. And in some cases, I've literally said, look, like you've done so well, even though it's one grade below, still look at other unis as well, and don't just say, okay, I'm just going to go next year, I'm just going to appeal, because actually you don't really have to. You can still find a place. But some people are really just like adamant about that. But again, in some cases that happens, and I've had students where we've done that and they've decided, actually, no, I want to retake some exams and apply next year. So that does happen, and we just like to support them through that.
Yeah, and that might be relevant this year as well. So we've seen what's been going on with students in Scotland as well who want to have their results. So given the circumstances of 2020, are there any, do you think it will just be a similar process if students aren't really happy with the grades they've been given, because obviously it hasn't been following the usual format this year?
Yeah.
So is there any way that, or any method that students can use to sway the decisions of their chosen university?
From what I've looked at, it's quite like a developing situation actually, because I was reading updates literally just an hour before we started this, and there's been like lots of, you know, talk going on. But what they said is that students can appeal, which is good, because I think if students could not appeal, that would be really unfair. And I think it's really important, because with what they're doing now, unfortunately, obviously, because we've had to choose the students' grade, but we've had to do it in a way that we need to be so sure that the grades are fair, that with the rankings and the way the results have been done, if they're using data, let's say from the last 3 years, and let's say I have 5 students that we've predicted A stars, but in the exam board says, well, actually, last year only 1 person got an A star, therefore we're going to have to reduce the ranking so that all the people predicted A stars get A's, and then those who predicted B's get C's. That's going to really change a lot for those individuals. And I think it's actually going to affect the people with the highest grades and the lowest grades more, because obviously, like for example, I think we predicted like, it was something maybe like 9 A stars. And we literally sat there for the whole week, constantly going back saying, we need to check this again, we need to check this again. And then we were like, okay, we've done the A stars, now the A's again. So I don't really know what's going to happen, but I think it's, you can appeal, and the appeal process, the appeal is going to be based on if you think that the standardization and the rankings have been done using an unfair method, or like a data that wasn't really fair, then you can appeal. Because I was reading an example, there was a student on the news, she was saying that all her grades are A stars, but because she's so high ability, in her school, in the last few years, no one has ever achieved those grades. So if they just base it on statistics, then what if she then doesn't actually get what she's supposed to get, just because they're going to say the data doesn't match? So they're saying that students can appeal through their schools. You can't do it individually, because normally you can just go to the exam board and say, can I have my paper? But because that hasn't happened, you have to do it via the school. So that means the school would then have to request for them to bring back, to look at all the results from that particular subject. Because if one person's or 2 people's grades are not, there's something wrong, then that means that it's likely that lots of them would have been maybe put down, or I don't know whether the grades would be lifted up, but from what I'm reading, I think it's more of them bringing down the grades, because I think their concern is that teachers are going to give too high of a prediction. But I feel like we've really tried to be as fair as we can, and I just hope that reflects what the students are hoping to achieve. And
people are just going to have to pray for favor their works in their way as well. Back, okay, Ibukum. So you said that you're doing medicine and you're ready to degree in biomedical science, right?
Yeah, I did 1 year.
You did 1 year in biomedical science.
1 year in biomedical science.
So were there any points where you felt the temptation? Because, well, you did 1 year, fortunately. A lot of people, they'll do a conversion course. So like they'll do biomedics for 3 years and do another 5 years in medicine. So obviously that can be a long process. So were there any points where you felt the temptation not to pursue it anymore, not to say, you know what, yeah, I don't need to do medicine. It's okay, I can do something else. Did you ever feel tempted to do that? And if so, how did you manage it?
I would say there were multiple times where I did feel like, yeah, you know what, this might not be for me. This is more, yeah, there were multiple times. Getting into, like, going through all that process at times felt long, and I felt like, you know what, this might not even be for me. But I feel like what helped me continue trying to get on was how much I actually loved the course. As in, with me, medicine's always been a thing of where I just wanted to do, because going to hospital at a young age, like experiencing like the ward, speaking to doctors, nurses, for me, it just felt like this is actually what I wanted to do. So now being denied that opportunity during secondary school and college, it felt like, you know what, if I really actually work for this, it's possible. Yeah, at times it felt like, you know what, this is too long, or they would give, or just one thing or another would just pop up where, oh, you can't do this because of this, you can't get into the course because of that. But I felt like because I wanted to do it so much, the passion, the zeal, everything I had for it, it just pushed me to continue trying and not to give up. And I would also say praying as well, because a lot of people do underestimate the power of prayer. When you pray, God does speak to you. He truly does speak to you. So it's a thing of where I took time out by praying, and God will speak to me, you know, take this route, try this route. And at the end of the day, it did all work out for me. But what I would say, which is the main point, is if you have passion for something, no matter how hard it looks at times, like, you would still continue to go for it. So that's what I would say in terms of that question.
No, I really like that. Like you had the passion, and you're also praying as well. So when you had your end goal in mind, no matter any obstacle that came with it, you know, okay, this is what I'm pursuing, and you're able to keep going with it. So it's all about knowing, like, making sure you actually know you want to do what you want to do. If you get what I mean. But yeah. Desiree as well. So you said you did economics, right? What is, like, how did you handle, so you already mentioned like all the stuff you had to do. So you mentioned how I had to call the universities and call UCAS and say, yeah, let me in. How did you deal with the pressure of securing a university spot within a tight time scale? Because I know a lot of people, they have, like, because the spots will be filling up quickly, so you need to act fast. So it can feel, well, from what I've noticed, can feel like a lot of pressure. So how did you deal with that pressure?
Well, if time frame's not as tight as you make it seem, because I actually got some of my stuff remarked, so my results actually did go up. But what actually happens is there's that they know all of these kind of things happen, so there's that space given for if adjustments do happen. However, the whole calling up process is based on if, okay, you do get stuff remarked, blah blah blah, and nothing changes, you know, you're still stuck in the same situation you are. Okay, when you make, all right, let's just use someone that actually listen to me and makes a list. You actually have to use a bit of, without any research, just make a choice. Would I like to be here? Would I like to be there? To take a lot of stuff out of it, because realistically, just in England, we have about 300 and something universities. Like, there's a lot. Realistically, everybody can't go to Oxford. Everybody can't go to Cambridge. Do you know what I mean? So you have to make some decisions for yourself. Then go off of where you're at. Do you know what I mean? Does that make any sense? Is that clear now?
Yeah.
You have choices. So finally, just pretty much.
Yeah. So how do you find these universities though? Is there like a specific list? Do you know, like,
I use league tables. So the same tables I use now of looking for universities, I use it to look. Yeah, I just went back there to look at, okay, when I was doing my initial research, it was all the top universities. So I'd gone from, you have your roster group, then you have your usual universities that are very, good anyway in the roster group. Then you just have like the regular ones that big universities. You go there, you get a degree, and you move on with your life. And you have the ones that, based on several ratings, they're not brilliant, So I had to reduce my expectations and a little bit to get to certain places and make a decision. But then based on my results, mine were very okay, so I could furthermore increase it again and then go back up.
Okay. Thank you. And also, I don't know if this would happen this year, but how did you manage to make sure your results were raised? So Alexandra already touched on this briefly. How did you go about it?
Sorry, are you talking to me?
Yeah.
What did you say? I'm listening to you, but I didn't hear anything you said. I'm so sorry.
I said, how did you mention briefly how you made sure your results were increased? How did you go about that?
I went back to, right, basically I was going on holiday 2 days after I got my results. So a lot of the things I had to get done had to be done on the phone. So I was constantly on the phone. So I called up my school and essentially told them how I felt. And they said I had to pay for certain subjects to change because I was predicted way more. I believe during the exam I performed way more. So it all looked very weird to me. And they agreed with the statement. And so we went on with filling, well, my mom did because she was going to pay for it. She went and filled the forms for the subjects I needed and then paid for it. And I believe it took about a week or two for the results to come back. And yeah, then I went on.
It's just having the confidence in yourself that you work. I know I deserve more than this.
Yes,
So
it doesn't. If it changes, you get a refund because that's them apologizing for the emotional trauma and blah blah blah. But if it doesn't, then that's a lot of money gone.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to really be sure that you're sure that you're sure that you're sure.
Yeah. And then Precious, so for those who might end up choosing to go through the apprenticeship, so on Thursday they decided, I want to do a degree apprenticeship. So you already mentioned how you were led to follow, like you eventually found what you're doing now. But what would you advise? Do you know any like practical like sites or places people can go to actually find these apprenticeships?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because when I was thinking about this morning, I was thinking about how I applied to a lot of different career help sites and companies that are meant to like help you to get work experience. But I think the best one that I applied to was something called Investment 2020. And if you're looking to do an apprenticeship, they are amazing because they give you work experience in investment banking and finance, even in tech as well. They have amazing programs and they keep you up to date with what's going on, what apprenticeships are out there, and what recruiters are looking to get new apprentices. And then great if you're trying to find a role even after results day, because what I find is that most degree apprenticeship roles are ending right about now, but apprenticeships are all the whole year. So Investment 2020, the website has all the new listings on their website and it's constantly there. So if you sign up to them, they'll give you a lot of help. And they're relatively new, so I find that they are almost more eager to help than some of the more established.
Okay, so can you repeat the name of these sites again? Just so people.
Yeah. So it's called
Investment 2020. Cool. Okay, that's good. So guys, look out for if you decide to go down the apprenticeship route, Investment 2020 is there. So actually no, still you Precious. So let's now think about the future. So with these different routes, some people there are loads of stigmas about these different routes, about clearing, about having to do a conversion or do an apprenticeship. So with you Precious, and this actually, so I do engineering, and I knew that before going into university, doing an apprenticeship is an option, and I can see the benefits, like no student finance debt and whatever. But one thing that a lot of people would run away from apprenticeship is that you don't get that unique experience. You don't get go on campus, you have the independence, or maybe that might not be the case. So do you think from from your perspective, do you think doing an apprenticeship will take away from the typical university experience? And if so, how do you plan on managing it? How do you still plan on making sure you enjoy your youth whilst you're doing it?
Yeah, no, I think it's important to enjoy your youth. But to be honest, I think the simple answer would be that if you're thinking of doing anything different, an apprenticeship, a degree apprenticeship, going straight into work, you have to acknowledge that your life is going to look very different than the average 18-year-old. I think if you're going to take that route, just accept that now. Because I was looking at my LinkedIn and I was looking at my future colleagues and I was thinking, most of these people have finished their PhDs, they've finished their masters, they're much older than me, haven't even gone to uni yet. So it's going to be a completely different experience. The people that I'm going to be meeting and talking to on a day-to-day basis, they are not going to be my age mates. But it's exciting in one step. On one side, you have to acknowledge the fact that you're different, that you're not going to have the same experiences as everyone else. But I think also just to balance that off, what I like about the course that I'm going to take is that we're partnering with Investment 2020, which means that there's going to be a lot of other apprentices that are around my age who will be like doing the same thing that I'm doing. So we're going to have a lot of events. They'll be able to communicate or be in touch with each other. So that'll be quite exciting. But I think
Okay.
the simple answer would be that just know your life is going to be different.
Yeah. So you'll be with quite mature people, but then, like you said, you still get the opportunity at times to meet other people your age doing other apprenticeships as well. So
Yeah.
that's. And what about you, Ibukun? So how does essentially doing two courses affect you in the long term? Like, do you feel, is it much different to those who would have straight away gone into medicine? How does it affect you?
I think it has positives and negatives to it. I'll touch on the negatives. It did take me, well, it will take me a longer time. So that's more money to pay off at the end, unfortunately. But I feel
Yeah.
like that's more time just the negative about it. But in terms of the positive, it really, really did make a difference. Coming into uni at the age of 18 years old, studying biomedical science, to me, it gave me a boost to compared to my peers now. So I feel like I had the university lifestyle experience at first. I knew how to manage my time, live by myself. So now going into medicine, where it was a little bit more difficult, I felt like having that start at the get-go gave me that boost, that confidence, that, the ability to go up to like doctors and my lecturers and speak to them, about certain things that I struggled with. So I would say more time it had that positive to it.
Okay. And there's a question from you two. So you mentioned how you came to do biomed so you first did GCSEs and then you did BTEC. What were the required grades to do biomed?
So the required grades for biomed, for GCSEs, it would be 5 GCSEs from 9 to 4 or A star to C. And for A levels, I'm presuming anything from BBC and above. And for BTEC, it would be DMM and above.
Okay.
Those would be the entry requirements to do biomed.
Okay. That's cool. So thank you for explaining all of that to us as well. And Desiree, so what about you? Is it any different once you get through university through clearing? Is it any different to those who got through it because it was their like first choice? Do you feel any different from getting?
I think personally it was this self-given. Well, I was comparing because I went to Dartford Boys, so everyone in my school were very high achievers. Like, so it was Russell Group, Oxford and Cambridge kind of things or nothing else. If you go to uni in London or any of the Russell Group, you failed at life. So there was just that past few years that was what it was, more or less. So for me, it was just kind of like, so when people ask me, Dennis, where are you going? I'm going to be fair, I stuttered for the first 2 months. I would just be like, don't worry about it. Check out. But my mom had to sit me down and be like, look, listen, some unis do have a name. You know, it's very impressive when you say, I study maths to Cambridge. It does sound very nice, but realistically, if you do go, when you do go to uni, you know, by God's grace, you graduate, come out, you get a degree. The degree speaks for itself. Having a degree is an achievement. Uni is uni. Like, even if we all could achieve it, we all still couldn't enter the Oxford. We all couldn't go to LSE. We all couldn't be in Nottingham, you know. So just go to where you are and enjoy it. Like, you have to. I had to just get a stigma off my head. Like, Desiree, look, this is a big thing. You made it to uni. Not a lot of people actually get here, you know. It's an accomplishment in itself to get to uni, wherever the uni is, even if it's, I don't know, wherever it is brilliant. Thank God for it. Open your mind to having fun, have fun. I love where I'm at right now, actually. A lot of good things have happened to me. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be in Leicester. It's a wonderful experience, realistically. So it's just that. Just get your mind out the whole shame of it.
Yeah, it's true, because like you said, by the time you get into university, nobody knows that there's not a banner over your head saying you came in through clearing or this was not your first choice university. Like, nobody knows until you say it yourself. And even if they did, it doesn't matter, because by the time you graduate, the work you did over the 3 years speaks for itself. And there's still whatever happens after results day and the path you take, everyone, like some people, one person could have ended doing an apprenticeship or gone through clearing or gone through their first choice, and they can still end up in the same place after 4 years. It's all by the grace of God. So no one should feel like they've been set back because of whatever route they take. Quickly before we finish. Go ahead.
If you don't mind me saying, fun fact, universities do appreciate you choosing them once you've been given a second choice university. So I believe Leicester gave me, was it either £500 or £1,000 for coming through clearing? So there was that. So it's like fair enough. Yeah.
Oh.
It was a good sum of money to spend. And also to add to what Precious was saying earlier, whilst I was in the middle of trying to decide what I wanted to do, I had thought about actually just taking the year to see if I actually do like economics. I was going to do like an investment banking internship. So I looked at a few places, and 3 places that was very helpful to me, and still actually helpful now, were Bright Network, STO London, and Deboot London. So you can actually just Google them up and register yourself, and they will just send you stuff that are relevant to you, because you'd have to tell them what it is you study and what you like to go into. So for me, it was investment banking, asset management, and even till now, I get to go to, like, I don't have to explain to you, but all these little meetings here and there, and it's just very helpful if you are considering that path, even after going to uni.
But you need a lot more than you need at the end of this. So all that stuff you mentioned, like, I know SEO London quite well as well, and they're really good. So even if you got into your first choice, there's more to be doing after that. There's loads of stuff you can be doing on the side. But Alessandra, do you know of success stories from students that didn't get the ideal grade that maybe you taught at one point?
I can't think of any specific examples right now, but what I would say is that there were lots of students, most of the students that I've taught that maybe didn't get the grade that they wanted, all found a place, and at the end of the day, all of them were happy with the place that they actually found. I did have a student last year that wanted to do economics, and I think she wanted to do it at LSE, and she was kind of like A student, but she didn't get into that particular university. She then appealed the psychology grade because we actually said, we didn't know why she was marked down, and when she was appealed for the psychology grade, she did get an A star in the end, and it was something like 2 or 3 marks off, but then she already had to decide whether she wanted to go to a different university to do economics, and in the end, I believe she went to Sussex, and she's doing really well, so she was happy in the end. And I think, as you guys have said, like, I think there's a lot of people that have this mindset of, I have to go to this uni, and obviously I've been teaching in a grammar school, and it's such a big problem where everyone's focused on, if I don't go to this particular uni and that uni that has this name and that name, and I'm like, it really isn't. I think it's great when you're able to say, as Desiree was saying, when you're able to say, you know, I went to Cambridge and I went to this uni, but ultimately that's the first step, especially in the world we live in now. You need so much more than a degree, because everybody has a degree. You need to be doing so much more to gain experience and to make yourself well-rounded. So I think that's something that's important to also mention.
So Thank you. Yeah, that's so true. So just wrapping up so quickly, if everyone can give a 10-second word of encouragement for people that get their results on Thursday. So if you can start just quickly, word of encouragement.
So God forbid, but if Thursday does not go your way, it is not the end of the world and it is not the end of your dream course.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It's not the end of the world and it's not the end
Thank
of your
you.
dream course.
Alexandra, 10-second word of encouragement, please.
My one would be to all things work together for your good. So have that at the back of your mind and let that just guide you through it. Because I was in a similar situation. I think I went to uni hundreds of years ago, but it was pretty much the same where I was so bad at maths that I applied to do psychology, but then I had to retake GCSE maths to get into my course. Can you imagine how hard that was? And I remember my course was held until I made sure that I passed that GCSE, and God actually, it was just a miracle how God did it. So just all things work together for good, and just trusting God, and it'll work out for your good.
Yeah. Thank you. Precious, quick word of encouragement, please.
I think my word of encouragement would be allow God to lead you through His Holy Spirit to tell you what to do. Like I felt as though God was calling me to do an apprenticeship, and He made a way, and I didn't even have to strive to get there. So when God has taken you to a place, He makes the ways easy for you to end up there. So it's just
Thank you. And Desiree?
I feel like an auntie saying this, but schools do not shape you. Like there's actually more to life than school. So if you were actually to go through clearing, there's uni is uni. There's no shame. Like the fact that uni is an achievement. So pick a uni that you think you get wonderful experience in. Because if you do go to a good uni and you don't exactly enjoy yourself there, you may not have the zeal to perform academically. So you need the whole rounded experience to be at your very best. So do put that in mind when you're making your choice.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you everybody. So in summary, I pray that on Thursday for everyone's results day, that I pray that everyone just ends up going down their ordained path, the path that God has intended for them, and that that God will just guide them from Thursday onwards. So yeah. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, bye guys.